Hello DevOps friends, I'm Jochen the Monospace Mentor, and welcome to my stream. I've been a little bit under the weather lately, spent the first half of the week in bed with a head cold, and I'm about 80% recovered now, and so I thought, yeah, let's do another live stream so I can finally get coding on the service management feature that I've been designing in the last few weeks, partly on and mostly on stream. I felt a little bit tired earlier in the afternoon, so I'm starting late, much later than usual, but I still told myself, hey, you need to get this done. And so here I am, a little bit later, so I'll probably miss dinner, but what must, that must. Yeah, and I'll explain what I'm going to do in a minute. But first, hey, let's make this an interactive show. I can do a long monologue, but I'm the Monospace Mentor, not the Monologue Mentor, so pop into chat and let me know what excites you. If you've discovered some new open source software that you are excited about, if there is something that you've started working on, if there is something interesting in your DevOps life. And if I can think of something that pertains to me, I'll do the same. But as I said, I spent most of the recent few days since the weekend in bed, so nothing much to update you about there, I think. And I guess we can quickly go into what I'm doing. Right, so, and just when I say that, Twitch goes into an ad break. So let's wait for a few more seconds. It says ad starting soon. The ad manager is still confusing. I have no idea. Now it seems to have started. Okay. That makes me think maybe I should change how this works. Let me see. Yeah, I think I'd switch to a longer ad in a lower frequency. That makes more sense. I mean, I'm not doing ads for profit anyway, just to keep people from getting ads right when they join the channel. And if you want to live an ad-free and privacy-respecting stream life, I can recommend going to my personal Owncast instance, live.monospacementor.com. It's the same stream over there, but without any intrusive stuff. So, do I need to save this? No, it's auto-saved, I guess. So let's go back here. And reload this. It still says add in 7 minutes. Sorry about that. Settings seem to have been persisted, but yeah. So Puffin, thanks for stopping by. Have fun. All right, so let's get going here. So this is the ADR on which I've been working on for a while now. An ADR is an architectural design record, basically a document that describes a new design or a change of design that you can submit to your team for discussion and approval, of course. And I did this mostly as an exercise for myself. Since I'm working on this application mostly solo, there isn't any formal or even informal approval process there. I'll have to live with my own mistakes. And so I did this as an exercise, and it really helped me to get a feeling for how the data model of this new service management feature is supposed to work. Simply by sketching out how I'm going to use these new classes, these new models in my Rails application to basically model the different and future available services on my company's hosting platform. And by sketching out how I would create these nested models, I was able to get the design pretty much rounded out. And I think I'm at a point where I can start implementing this, even if there are still a few things that I didn't think of or that might not be optimal. I mean, that's always the case. We have to accept that we'll never be perfect. And so getting it implemented in a less perfect way is better than not getting it implemented at all. And I guess that means we'll start creating migrations for what I've designed here, but I'll first have to update our project management system to get a little bit of transparency into what I'm doing. And I'm going to do that off screen. Let me see. If I switch desktops, you should still be able to see my screen, right? Yeah, that seems to be the case. So let me quickly go here, create this project. Let's also create milestones for the project. Prototype implemented. Design finished. Let's start with these two milestones, and now I'll add issues that give me branch names. So I'll create a new issue, create ADR for data model. Sorry I can't share that with you, but I chose not to do it. Oh, on the other hand, why not actually? Let me see, let's cancel that. I can always skip the more sensitive stuff that I don't want to share on screen. Save as draft, okay. Now I'll simply put this over here so I can not only log in but also pass by the more sensitive stuff. Login will require an email loop. So Here we go. Where's my project? Service management. All right, I think we can work with this. So we're using Linear as our project management system. And I've created a project here, service management in dashboard, because first we'll implement the service management in our customer dashboard without much effect on reality, I guess. So the first step will simply be to model the actual reality in our infrastructure. And once that's done, and that will give us more of a feel for how how well this is going to work, then we can start building functionality around it that is actually useful to our customers. Twitch still is telling me that there's a new ad coming up shortly, so it didn't catch the 30-minute frequency. Sorry about that. Maybe it'll do after... Ah, yes. Of course, yeah. Of course. It ran a short ad before, so it only lasted for a short interval. Now it's going to run a longer ad, and that's going to last for half an hour, and we'll be not bothered by an ad anymore for half an hour. Okay, so that's fine. Hey, Indrak! So I think what I'm going to do during this ad break is simply set up the issues that I wanted to do. There is already a draft issue that I had been working on. That's actually fine. That is the milestone design finished. Actually, that's correct. And that is in progress. Oh, these are the suggestions. Yeah, that's assigned to me. That's the milestone. Perfect. We'll create this issue. And let's go back to the service management project, and I'll create another issue. And that is implement initial design. Assigned to me. Different milestone though, that goes towards prototype implemented. It's not yet in progress, that's a backlog issue. And the project is in status proposal until the ADR is done, even though there is no formal approval process for this. We'll set a medium urgency, medium priority here, because that's a pretty important project. What I also want to do is to set the start and finish dates. So when did I start working on this? This should be visible from my commits, right? In this branch data model. Yeah, pretty much that. 4 weeks ago. Do I get this? Can I get this a little bit more? precisely. Let's see. LS only doesn't even give me dates. LL doesn't give me dates either. How about LD? It gives me relative dates. But if I simply take the commit here, data model 531E, this here, and I do a git show. Also says 4 weeks ago. Usually that's really helpful, but in this case it's not. Let's see. Commit logs. How do I influence the date format? Pretty if neither was used, but date was given on the command line. Show the timestamp in the format requested by date. And how does date work? Tell me. Date format. Date ISO. ISO is great. Okay. So git log dash date ISO. No, that didn't work. I think it's an argument to pretty, right? So pretty. Yeah, that's better. And now this May 8th. Okay, that was the start date. Another Thursday, actually. And when are we going to be finished? I think I should be able to finish this within the next 2 weeks. So by Friday, the week after next week, this should be finished. No, not May. Actually, this one here, June 20th. All right. Now, let's go into this issue, create ADR. The nice thing about linear is it gives me branch names that I can use, and that will automatically then be referenced by linear. And I think by simply clicking on this, I already copied it to my clipboard, did I? Let me see. So far, we have this in service management design. I think I'm going to do a rebase. An interactive rebase, so I can actually squash all these, and I'll rewrite the initial issue. And I think I'll keep the last one as well. We'll just rewrite those. In this case, I'll call it ADR, Data Model for Service Management. And finished ADR on service management. So now we have 2 commits, and I'm going to create a new branch with the branch name that linear gave me. I'll push that, or I push that. Okay, that was pushed. That's funny. And that means I can actually clean the service management design branch. And I think I'll take the liberty of already merging this and therefore finishing the issue. Let's see what happened over here. I don't think it has updated yet, but that might actually be because I failed to update our API token for Linear. Could that be? Hey Fragberg, how you doing? Enjoy your lunch. I'm a little bit late today, but after resting a little bit, I decided, yeah, let's not lose the whole afternoon and get something done. So I'm basically using you folks as my accountability buddies. I hope you don't mind. So let me quickly check if the Linear API token that we are using to integrate it with GitLab has expired. I got warnings about it, and for some reason I postponed it. There was something I didn't want to do. I don't remember anymore. So let's see. Well, I see at least. Settings. Integrations. GitLab. It might have been because I didn't know how to update the token in GitLab actually. Because there doesn't seem to be an update feature. So let's check out how this works. Configure go to sec. Follow advanced. I guess I'll simply go and disable the integration and re-enable it with a new token. And I need a new token actually. Do I have one? Access tokens. There is the old one that is going to expire in 1 week. So Linear not picking up my branch activities can't be related to the token. The token will become a problem in a week. So let's go back to the project. Yep, here we are. Okay. So let me see. Anyway. Let's merge that branch. Oh, I think I would have had to actually create a merge request up here. And then I would have gotten something out of GitLab, out of Linear, because I think Linear only reacts to merge requests. Okay, so if I merge this right away, which I already did, and I push it, will Linear update automatically and mark it as at least in review? That's a little bit strange that there isn't any response at all. Maybe I should have gone the merge request path. We're going to test this with the actual implementation. All right, so the milestone design finished is 100% of one issue. Do I still... No, don't have to do anything. Okay, prototype implemented is 0% of one issue. Hey Balthazar, how you doing? No, I'm not. I did just merge the change, and I can actually also delete the feature branch here. Everything's clean now, and we can go ahead and also... That was 183. Clean that as well. As you can see, I haven't done a lot of actual programming and engineering work lately. So I'm actually not sure how Linear responds to repository interactions. Opportunity to refresh my memory, right? So let's go into implement initial design and pull it out of the backlog to in progress. We'll also give it a medium priority. And we'll get a new branch name and use my git new branch alias to get cracking. Ah, interesting. Why did the syntax highlighting work differently here? That's also a bit weird, but hey, still okay. Bethesda says, without a PR, I expect that the event doesn't fire. Yeah, I think. What surprises you about me using Linear? I think it's a good way to have something of a more abstract project management. We did try the built-in project management in GitLab, but for some reason it didn't stick. And Linear, even though it's basically the same, did. I'm not sure why. It's an interesting question now that I come to think about it. Hey Infinity Boy, how you doing? Meta Mark Zuckerberg. Hi. Really? That's what you came up with? All right. Now, it's basically about getting these classes implemented. So I guess we'll start from the top. and create a plan model. Oh dear. Am I really supposed to do some Rails shenanigans? Let's spin up my development environment first. Which means running DC up, right? I'll have to migrate this to Podman Compose. This was quick. Almost a little bit too quick. Let's see. If I go into the app and do, yeah, why not a Rails console? Huh, interesting. Rake test suite. It's always good to run the full test suite before you start making changes, because otherwise you might get confused by errors that you can't really explain because they're not related to what you did. And if you run your test suite before you're making changes, then you can actually notice if there are already issues that you're bringing in. But in this case, it looks like we're clean. So far, at least. It's really good to have a extensive test suite that helps you recover, discover regressions and errors. All right. Speaking of test suite, shall we do this in a test-driven development way? Does it make sense? What do you think? All I could do is now create tests that test the existence of a data model, because your functionality is going to come at a later point. And just for the existence of tables that don't do anything, I don't think there's really much sense in creating tests just to show that there are tables. If the application doesn't need the tables, why would you need tests? And only once you have an application that actually needs the tables, then it makes sense to write tests, and then it's also possible to write tests because now you are adding business logic on top of the data model. So we'll go without. What I'm going to do is run ABE, which is just a helper script that goes into my application container and runs bundle exec with the following arguments. And we'll do a Rails generate model plan with a name and a status. This is how it's supposed to work, right? Let's take a look. Yep, looks exactly how it's supposed to look. All right. Then we create a service which is not yet related to the plan class. Let's create another model called service. All services have a name too, and they have a scope, which I'll also make an integer column. And those will then be used via enums that give me a little bit more context instead of just bare numbers. So that's that. All right, then it's so nice that you can actually simply use the mouse, go over here in this terminal split and use the scroll wheel and scroll inside Vim while the focus is still on the terminal window on the right. I really, really love Tmux for it. Okay, now we have service attributes. Those are related to services. And actually now let me look up how this works. Rails association generate. Haha, Balthasar is paying attention. Yes, I did ditch Zelich. I simply found there isn't much benefit in it for me. Just a little bit more complication, actually. I would have been able to replace Tmux with Zelich, but without much benefit. Even though it tickles me a little bit that Zelich keeps coming up with new features, stacked windows, and things like that. It's becoming a window manager for the terminal, basically. Those are just not things that I use. The most complex thing I think I use is splitting the terminal into two halves, and maybe the occasional floating terminal. For example, if I want to invoke LazyGit, I built that into Tmux as well. I can easily press a key combination and get LazyGit popping up in a floating pane. But other than that, I just don't need the more advanced features that are built into Zelich. And so it didn't really make sense for me to up the complexity, even for just a little bit, to not gain any advantages of it. Eduardo, how you doing? Welcome to the stream. Alright, so I wanted to look up how associations are built. I think the way it works is I simply create the migration with a references type, and everything else then happens in the model itself. Only thing is, if I want to create this, that it says references author, how do I do that? Author references. Okay, and that creates an author ID, I guess, right? Well, no, not really. Okay. Interesting. I thought we'd always use the _ID suffix for these foreign keys, but apparently not. Maybe the convention has changed over time, and I'll happily adopt the new one. Eduardo asks, what are you building? I'm working on an extension of a Rails application. That Rails application is the customer dashboard for my company's managed hosting platform. And so far, we are managing the services that are available to our customers in a hard-coded way. And that has been working for quite a few years now, 15 to be precise, but now I'd like to make it more flexible, and that's why I'm working on a generic service management data model that allows us to add arbitrary services in any number without creating specific classes and stuff for each and every one of them. And I've been working on the Thanks for the follow, Zuck. So far, I've been working on the data model, and today I'm excited to be implementing the data model so we can get some initial data into our database to see if we are actually able to model the reality in our infrastructure. And once the data model has been proven okay, then I think the next step will be to simply populate the database with the existing information and display it to our customers. Because so far the information about services associated with the customers' websites and hosting clusters and things like that have been pretty scattered, and having a central place where we can say, these are your services that you've booked and are using, that's going to be the next step in this project. But one step at a time. First, let's simply install the database changes and see how things work out. Infinity Boy over on YouTube says, my current and first job involves tech. I'm not a fan of. I want to switch, but I lack experience. Can open source or personal projects help me make the transition? I'd really appreciate your insight. On that general level, I would say yes. I mean, it of course, I'll have to follow it up with it depends, as always. But if you want to change in between roles, maybe even in between jobs, there's something that you need to be able to show to tell people, you're at the right place. We are in an ad, and so I'll wait until the ad is over. What I can do in the meantime is actually set up my whiteboard tablet so I can actually it's not in my backpack, so it's probably on my nightstand. I'll be right back. It's also a good idea to drink a sip of water. The ad seems to be through as well. Eduardo asks, are you taking questions today? Yes, I do. Especially since I won't be able to do my office hour live stream tomorrow, as it looks like, because I have family responsibilities that I can't postpone. I need to get my son to an appointment that collides with my office hour live stream, unfortunately. So yeah, ask away. So I'm getting the... Of course, there's also the pen that I need. Give me just a more minute. Okay. So, oh, right. I did not fully answer your question, Infinity Boy. So, what I meant to say was, you need to have something to show for, to convince people that it's a good idea to have you change roles within your company, or even to join a new company. And open source and personal projects will always at least give an inkling to someone in HR or the hiring manager that you have acquired certain skills, that you had the motivation to even acquire those skills. So even if those skills aren't really relevant to your future role, for me as a hiring manager, they can still tell me that you are able to set yourself a goal and reach it. And so that definitely is something that speaks in favor of you. It will probably require more to convince someone to give you a new role, but it can actually maybe even tip the scales. But it definitely will make a difference. It might only be a small difference. It might also be a big difference, depending on who you're talking to. But I think it'll make a difference. Does that make sense? Feel free to keep asking. Eduardo asks, do you like GitLab CE? The context is a very small company with 4 developers with just one product, a legacy Java enterprise web app. It currently uses old Jenkins with a broken and manual CI/CD. I really like GitLab. We are using the hosted version simply because we don't want to run too many things ourselves that don't really contribute to our bottom line, which is hosting websites. I mean, we are web operations experts, so it's not that we wouldn't be able to run our own GitLab, but actually I don't want to spend the time running our own GitLab, because these are tools that you are pretty much dependent on as an engineering organization, and once it breaks, you'll have to completely switch focus from developing your product into saving your infrastructure, your development tools, in this case saving GitLab. And I don't want to do that, actually. And that's why we have a hosted account on GitLab, but we just cancelled our subscription, because what I can do is run a GitLab runner myself here in my home lab. And that's the only thing that got us to getting a paid subscription in the first place. So I let our subscription lapse and didn't renew it. And so we are now using a free hosted account, and we are running our own GitLab runner here locally, and that works perfectly fine. So I think it's a very good fit for a team like yours. Right, so we'll implement the service attribute now. I'll go ahead and model this, and the service attribute has a service which it references. Yeah, so you're welcome, Eduardo. The question for me would not be, is GitLab good for us? I think it's a good fit. The question should be, are we going to run CE ourselves, or will we just get a free hosted account? Because I think that could work very well. Running a GitLab runner isn't too bad. And that's something where we could even say, yeah, so the GitLab runner seems to be broken. And in that case, we would still be able to run tests and even deploy from our workstations. So it's not as mission critical as the whole repository. If that went away, nobody would be able to do new work and maybe even access their own work, say from their laptops or something. And that's why we make running our central source repository someone else's problem. Service is a reference, and then we have another name for this attribute, and a unit that's also an attribute. And I had an idea in terms of monitoring the usage of these services. But I think I'll postpone that. That's out of scope for now. I need to be more disciplined. So that's that. Alrighty, this is going nicely. So. Well played, Eduardo. As a fresh intern who just ditched school, I'm interested in the path that makes me indispensable. The risk is also exciting. So GitLab CE it is, I guess. Yeah, okay. Fair play. Let's see. Wait, wrong window. Here we go. Let's go to the service instance. A service instance is basically what gets created when a customer books a service. And that's why the service instance also references a service, because it's an instance of a specific service. The service instance... Why does a service instance have a name? Oh, right. A service instance isn't what a user books. It's basically an incarnation of a service. How would you call it? What it is say when you go to a platform as a service and you say, okay, I want a PostgreSQL database, then you'll have to pick, okay, what do you want? The basic one, the level 2 one, the medium one, the very huge one, and that's the instances. And that's why these instances also have names, because that's then basically MySQL 1 or MySQL 4 GB or whatever it's going to be named. Apparently we'll also have a service default field that is Boolean, that tells us, is this instance the default deployment for a specific service? Is this the MySQL size that we provision by default if the customer doesn't reference or define it more clearly? Yep, reference is wrong. It's references. Infinity Boy says, thanks, that makes sense. I'm working with PHP, JavaScript, and WordPress. Just coding it pays, but I'm not enjoying it. Just took it since there were fewer offers at the time. Makes sense. We are actually specialized in hosting WordPress and Drupal. That's the only two CMSs that we do hosting for, but it's high-end hosting for those websites. So we have WordPress instances that get millions of page views per week, per month. And the same with Drupal websites for newspapers, for big magazines and things like that. And we've been doing that for a while now. I founded the company in 2010. All right, so next, service instance attribute. That relates to the service instance, because as I said, these instances have specific attributes, like 4 GB of disk space or 8 GB of RAM, maybe both. And that's how we basically model these services, how the capacities are actually defined. We could have called this, or I did call this capacity when I started building the data model, but attribute is a little bit more generic, because another service that we could have and do have, for example, is a premium service level agreement with 24/7 support, for example. And that's not really a capacity, is it? It is an attribute of that service, though, and so it makes more sense to call it an attribute. And let's create it. It's a service instance attribute, so it does definitely reference a service instance. And wait, did I? There's an error in my definition here. The instance attribute. I think I'm missing something. Let's see. In our example implementation here, we create, let's see, here's a service instance for an Apache Solr search index. And that instance has an attribute. Oh, I think, did we miss? No, I did define the service attributes, and those have a name and a unit, but not a value. That would say, for example, the service attribute of a Solr instance is how many documents it has. So the name would be documents of this attribute, and the unit for this attribute would also be documents. And then we have specific service instance attributes, where we say, okay, for the Solr documents attribute, this instance has this value, and then there's another instance that has a different value for the same attribute. So it did make sense what I did up there, which I'm happy about. But it's good to doubt yourself once in a while. Where are we? Here we are. Service instance attribute. It, however, should reference a service instance and a service attribute, right? That's something that might be missing. Let me see. Here we have a service instance attribute where we say, okay, the service instance is Solr. Oh, that's already a service instance. And a service attribute and a value. Yeah, okay. So up here, service instance attribute will also have a T references service attribute. Well, I guess we'll remove the IDs here. Since they are not convention, apparently. We'll do that here as well. Wait, something went wrong. Okay, let's go back. Service instance attribute has a reference to a service instance, a reference to a service attribute, and a value. And we'll model the value as a string because, yeah, it's really hard to predict if it's a numerical one or not. In terms of a service level agreement, it might actually be simply the string 24/7 or something. So using strings here makes it more flexible. PD Prasanna, hey, welcome to the stream, asks, which IDE? That's NeoVim. I do all my DevOps work in the terminal. NeoVim fits that very nicely. Then it comes to who can actually book which service, and that's the service eligibility. And here I have a to-do. Determine if necessary, if this service eligibility is necessary given service instance eligibility. Yeah, okay. The thing is, who can book what needs to be managed on the instance level of a service, because, for example, a specific plan might not even allow higher tiers of a service like MySQL. Maybe you're paying for the cheaper plan that doesn't give you a MySQL database with a terabyte of table space or something. And in that case, we wouldn't really need the service eligibility, because once someone is eligible for one or more specific MySQL instances, it's clear that they are eligible for MySQL in general. So I think we'll skip that for the time being. I'll actually delete that. If it turns out that for practical reasons it makes sense to model it, we can always do that later. But for the time being, I don't see the use. Thanks, PD. Yeah, these getting your own workplace and workspace set up ideally for your own purposes is always a thing that takes years and years. Years ago, I fell in love with the Dracula color scheme, and I got myself the Operator Mono font because it has these nice characteristics that it uses cursive fonts for comments in code, which looks pretty cool, I think. And over time, the setup grew and grew. But if you're interested in how I did it, simply check out my dot files. Oh, and Suck earlier said, WordPress is really good. Don't understand why people think it hasn't been updated. If you really focus and put your mind to it, can be great. Don't be afraid just because it's WordPress. Yep, I agree. There's a lot of stuff that can go wrong with WordPress if you don't maintain it properly, but hey, doesn't that apply to basically everything? PD says, love the fact that we don't have to use a mouse. Yeah, I really like that I can switch between these panes here with the keyboard without using the mouse, and that I can have my terminal windows here between and switch between them with just a few keystrokes. That makes work so much easier, and I can keep my hands on the keyboard, which makes things so much more comfortable than having to reach for the mouse all the time. Now, speaking of service instance eligibility, let's model it. Service instance eligibility. It references a plan, and then it references a service instance, and that's all it does. And that means customers on a specific plan have access to specific service instances. That's going to be a fun thing to actually enter the data for that, to finally have a representation of all our product structure in the customer dashboard. So far, this has been managed outside of the customer dashboard. Adding it in is something that many of our customers, if I'm honest, have been missing for a long time. Okay, and we're getting to the high-level stuff now. Once a customer has picked a plan, which we'll have to model next. Model cluster plan. We basically, the basic product we sell is a cluster, which is basically a set of servers that run the web application and auxiliary services like Varnish or MySQL and stuff like that. And so a customer can pick one specific plan per cluster, which means we'll have to reference their cluster. We'll have to reference the plan that they've picked. We'll have to have a status of that association, because that'll allow us to do something that we can't do if we simply make the plan an attribute of the cluster. We could simply say a cluster has a specific plan, and then we wouldn't have to create a separate database table for that. But if I use this kind of a through association between a cluster on the one side and the plan on the other side, I can actually assign additional attributes to this association, where we can, for example, say this association, this cluster plan, was commissioned or decommissioned at a specific date and time. And therefore, we can also model the history of a cluster's plan and can see, okay, when did they upgrade the plan on their cluster? When did they downgrade it? So that gives us a historic overview that we don't even have now. So we have a status that gets modeled as an integer in the database and as an enum in the application. So we don't have to work with raw numbers. And then we have a commissioned or booked field, and I guess a cluster which doesn't have a plan in the commissioned state anymore is basically cancelled. That would automatically lead to the cancellation of a cluster, I guess. So does this work? Did I pick date time right? Yeah. Wow. Okay. It's been quite a long time since I extended the data model of this application, which also has been running for 15 years now. Oh, 13, around 13 years. We started out not having a customer dashboard, and we managed everything our customers were requesting via our ticket system, actually. We are only a handful of people running this whole operation, and so we had to be a little bit frugal. We couldn't develop the hosting infrastructure for a high-end managed hosting platform, aside also programming or commissioning the development of a customer dashboard. So we went without one. Ad break is going to start in a few seconds, in about a minute, so I'll make an effort of not talking about important stuff during that. Don't you worry. Okay, now cluster service instance. Because some services can be assigned on a cluster level. For example, the premium SLA will not be limited to a single website on a cluster. It will apply to a whole cluster and all its websites. Cluster service instance, where we again have a cluster. And of course a service instance. It's as easy as that. We could also add these timestamps. And a status. That would give us the full history of all these comings and goings. Nice. Okay, that's what I'm going to implement in the next few minutes, so you're not going to miss out on anything during the ad break. Service instance, cluster service instance, that's this. We have the service instance, then we have the status. The commissioned date time, decommissioned date time. The same applies to the website service instance. It's completely the same thing, just on the level of a single website. All right. Oh. Let me do a posture check while we are on an ad break. Let's get some water. Wait, are we already through the ad break? I'm so bad with tracking these. Okay, I think I'm going to migrate these changes into the database. So we'll run an application container bundle install Rails db migrate, and that should create all of our database tables. Cool, cool, cool. Let's take a look. Here in app models, there are quite a few more models now. Let's see how a service instance attribute looks like. Oh, that's amazing. So we have the service instance attribute, and since thanks to the way I modeled it, there's already the association that it belongs to a service instance and to a service attribute, which makes it a service instance attribute. Cool. And the annotate gem up here also added all the other columns that we can use here. So it did actually add the underscore ID in the column name on the database, but it's implied in the code, even in the migrations code. Okay, good to know. And yeah, here we can see there's also the value that goes with it. And integer actually gets implemented as a big int. Okay, yeah, that also makes sense. Service attribute and service instance are automatically also modeled as not null. That makes perfect sense, and I think that is also okay in my case. Yep, that's perfect. All right, I think we are at a point where we definitely should commit our changes. So there have been changes to the models. There have been changes to the migration scripts, to the structure.sql, and we made updates to our ADR. Will I commit the ADR separately? I think I will. Let me see, what did we change? Not only did we remove the underscore ID suffixes, that's basically it, right? And we removed the one model that didn't seem to be necessary. So I guess I'll commit this as a chore cleanup ADR 002. Remove implicit underscore ID suffixes, remove unnecessary for now model. I don't actually remember which one it was. Doesn't really matter much. Okay, and the rest is simply implementation of the data model. Implement data model in ADR 02. And let's push it. Hey, Fullsnabel. Aye. What do you mean? Oh, artificial intelligence. You need it to be relevant. Yeah, right. AI also stands for artificial intelligence. That's perfectly right. I was confused for a minute because when you look at, say, self-driving cars, for example, Waymo and these, AI actually stands for all Indians. So that's this done. And actually, I'm happy to wrap things up here. Because, yeah, as I said at the beginning of the stream, I've just so recovered from a head cold. I'm about 80% there, but I can feel my head throbbing a little bit. And so I'm going to wrap things up, I think. And as I said, I won't be able to do an office hour tomorrow because I have to drive my son to an appointment that collides with the time of my office hour stream. And by the time I come back, I might not have enough time anymore. So, yeah, I apologize if I can't do that. Yeah, Fuller Snabel, you're right. Wasn't it Builder.io that basically imploded the other day because of exactly that? See, that gives even more relevance to my joke. So, yeah. I had the goal of implementing my data model today, which I did. There are a few more steps to do until we can see the stuff in our dashboard application itself, and I'll continue working on that. And so there will be another live coding stream where I will commence doing the stuff that I've been doing today. Yeah.
It's a Unix system. I know this.
Carlin T. Carlent, welcome. Welcome to the stack. Thanks for the follow. I appreciate it. All right, folks. Yeah, let's stop rambling. I'll wrap things up here. Maybe we can raid someone. Let me take a look if there's someone we can raid, huh? Thursday afternoon raid. How about that? Yeah, why not? We'll drop into GoPro Sloyo, who just started their stream, so that's perfect. Let's go ahead and start the raid. Follow me there. Say hello to them. And I'll see you next week. Till next time, take care.